placed by West Point at one of these civil prep schools, and there are very few slots that they give out. And they're for mostly candidates that are fully qualified across the board, academically, medically. They got a nomination, passed the CFA, but they didn't quite make it into West Point. They just didn't quite make the cut. They'll place them at one of these prep schools. And it just gives another year of maturation for them. And if they finish that year, there's like a 95% chance that they're going to get an appointment into West Point the next year. I forgot what you asked me. Oh, and the prep schools, yeah, are for folks, candidates that are fully qualified. And as Campbell said, the prep school is on West Point grounds, sort of, mile up the road, and it's for candidates that are or have a weakness in one area that they need to work on. The prep schools are financed by the Association of Graduates, AOG, West Point. And I can't quote you the exact numbers, but it costs the candidate about a third of what it normally would cost to go to one of those prep schools. And the prep schools, civil military schools, I think it runs upwards of $12,000 to $15,000 a year. But if you get placed there, it's like a third or less than that.
And just kind of the funny aside, can anyone take a guess at what the #1 reason people get sent to the civil prep schools are?
Behavior. If they were trying to send my brother to one of those.
Academics, because they had a twin. Because just based off of the way that the nominations process is, they try to get a pretty good geographic sample of the country at West Point. And so let's say I have a twin, and we're both competing for David Rouser's nomination. We can't get in the same year. So it's funny. I actually know 5 people that's happened. Just a funny little aside.
How do you pick who gets the short straw?
Exactly.
That's
They make the parents choose.
Right.
I wonder how
Well, being a
that
twin
works.
myself, I know one's always better.
You mean a literal twin? Not just
I
somebody
wonder
who
how
would be
often
like
that
you on
really
paper. A
Identical,
literal twin.
identical or fraternal twins, yeah. It's just something we can go and take a look at for a minute, is the demographics for the class of 2026. So they had just under 13,000 people apply. 9,000 of these people got knocked off just trying to get the nomination. So that just shows how important that piece of the process is. It may not feel important because you're not actually turning anything into the school. This is something you're just doing to some elected official you've never met before. As you can see, that is where about 3/4 of the class got, that's where they kind of got stopped. And then 15% of the people who got nominated weren't qualified physically. And so that's the importance of doing that Dodd-Merv exam super early. Because if you do get disqualified, you can get a waiver depending on what your actual condition or injury is. And most people, they actually give waivers. They give waivers for most things. So that's something to look at. And also you can look at the academic statistics that you can see up there. They're pretty solid, 1330 SAT and a 30 ACT, those are just the averages. That's higher than UNC, it's higher than state. I think Duke's probably got to be. It's pretty, that's pretty high. And also just looking at the caliber of applicants that you're going to be applying against, there were almost 80 valedictorians and there were 129 class presidents. So that's just the kind of leaders that are trying to come to West Point that you're competing against. Also 756 team captains. That just kind of goes to reinforce not only that every cadet is an athlete, but you have to be able to be a leader, be an athlete. You have to be able to kind of mesh these. It's kind of interdisciplinary approach to how you're applying all your skills.
Just one thing, Campbell, that block that shows valedictorians and class president, those are, yes, if you're one of those, you're top notch, and that gives you a lot of points for leadership toward your cumulative goal score. But what this slide to me, and I try to tell candidates don't get intimidated by this slide. They want an active, well-rounded person. So they want you involved in something, volunteering, being a team leader, teaching church classes, going to boys, girls state, being school, joining a club and being the treasurer or the vice president or some position. They want an active, well-rounded person. So we can't all be team captains and class presidents, but they want you just not sitting on the couch or, they want you out in the community, being active, looking for leadership type of positions.
I don't see a video game champion up there.
Not there yet.
Maybe later.
Maybe for the video game team captain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if anything today has kind of resonated with you, or even if you just think it might be an interest, I would highly recommend you take a picture of this guy right here's contact information. Major Mark Owens is the Southeastern Admissions Regional Commander. So he would kind of be your direct liaison at the school that you're emailing back and forth with, trying to get admissions help. But also, each one of the folders, if anybody wants one, we should have some extra if you don't have one already, have Colonel Heath's contact information, a little business card taped to the inside. So he could also be a source of admissions help if you find that you need it.
Yeah, he is usually it's a major or captain. He's the Southeast Regional Commander at admissions. Sometimes he's hard to get a hold of. I am your admissions representative in the local area. So Brad also works in the field for us, Mr. Irby's, and we act as your local boots on the ground, so to speak. If you need an interview, if you've got any questions and you can't get a hold of admissions at West Point, if you need the CFA administered, things like that, we can help with that. So.
Yep, Colonel Heath did my interview during my
That's right.
applications process. Yeah, well, guys, I appreciate you for letting us come talk to you today. Does anyone have any questions?
What are some admirable traits that, like someone applying to West Point?
Admirable traits. I mean, one thing that they will ask to see for is that you're resilient, that you're able to display perseverance. I feel like that's probably something that's pretty common, not only amongst talking to different classes and applicants and students. It's something that they saw in their application process. It's going to be something that a lot of schools ask to see. I can actually recall a prompt right now. It was literally just, tell us one time where you persevered. And so, you have to be able to demonstrate some point in your life where you didn't let something put you down, you pushed through and did whatever you needed to do. Yeah.
Can you tell us what a tactical officer is at West Point?
Yeah, sure. So there are actually tactical officers and tactical NCOs. NCO, everybody knows what an NCO is, and so these are, it's an officer and an NCO who actually have an office on the floor of the building where you live, which sounds scary, kind of sounds like mom and dad living right down the hallway. But their main purpose is not only to see you through West Point administratively, but it's also to kind of be in charge of your development while you're there. They're your first mentor you go to when you have a problem. If you need to talk, if you've got a question about the big army, if you've got a problem that's arisen, which I understand this is different than when y'all went through. They're actually there for you, like just as a person more than as a soldier or a cadet, which is pretty. It's a pretty cool experience. They're also.
You all didn't have that experience?
Not with the tactical officer, no.
And the cool thing is they're actually around for all of your class events as well. So my TAC officer she's the one who gave me my class ring. She'll be there when I get my diploma. You get to form like a pretty cool connection with them because they see you grow. They see you hit these benchmarks. But at the same time, they also do see you get a bad grade, so you gotta watch out. Yeah, anything else, guys?
Any question? Can you tell us about your ring? When do you get the ring? When does a cadet earn that?
Yeah, so it's the second weekend of your senior year. And it's funny because they jinx you pretty hard because they make you put in your order for it before Christmas break of your junior year. But Yeah, it's a really big ceremony where everybody gets down to this place called Trophy Point, which is where a lot of the important stuff there happens. It's this scenic overview looking over the Hudson. About 5 miles down the river, you can see a town called Poughkeepsie. It's beautiful. And that, and basically you get up. Getting your ring is kind of like another way of assurance, like showing that you're prepared, you're committed to actually moving on past West Point, doing whatever that's going to require you to do.
West Point started class rings, by the way.
1839. Never class.
You go to the library there, they have them all the way from when they started. One interesting thing is when you graduate, I spent 6 years in and then went to work for Ford Motor Company and then General Electric. My instructor, chemistry instructor at West Point, I saw him later at General Electric. He was in charge of nuclear licensing. Worked in nuclear at GE. But opportunities present themselves sometimes. So he started an engineering consulting firm, and he asked me to come along to work at that firm. I worked there for 6 years. But you'll meet classmates and all as long, and opportunities will present themselves, and you'll have those relationships. You'll have relationships in normal colleges too, but these are a bit stronger. And as you get older, my company mates back in 73 when I graduated, we still get together and we have Zoom calls just to catch up on stuff every other month. One of my classmates was from Honduras, so he's on those calls too. So it becomes interesting in terms of keeping in touch with people and opportunities opening up for you, both in the service and out of the service.
I got a question for you. How about West Point, the town? Like, what's the population of it? And then can you go there? And when can you go there? At what point during your educational experience can you go to town, leave the campus?
Yeah, so just outside of West Point is a town called Highland Falls. And it's probably about 5,000 people. It's not huge. It's got a couple restaurants and places for you to eat, places for you to go hang out when you're an upperclassman. But it's really not. It's not necessarily what you think of as a college town. But I mean, you can actually go and maybe even go into Highland Falls as a freshman, but your privileges kind of evolve while you're there. So freshmen can take walking privileges, which is staying within a 10-mile radius. Then after that, sophomores, juniors, and seniors can take, it's called off-post privileges. That's when you get a 75-mile radius to go do whatever you want, but you have to be back that night for taps, which is 1 o'clock on the weekends. And it's 75 miles, actually, it includes New York City. So I mean, there have been a lot of days where we just go head down into the city for the day and just have a blast. But at the same time, as a senior, I can leave post however many weekends throughout the school year that I want. And I can go spend the night, do whatever, just got to tell somebody where I'm going. As a freshman, you get to do that twice. You get 2 base passes. They'll give you some free 3-day weekends, just depending on like how the core is doing, if you're experiencing success or anything like that. But one cool thing that they offer is a spirit pass. That is, you get one a semester. That is a plane ticket and a ticket to the game wherever you want to go where Army's playing sports. So I actually took advantage of that 3 weeks ago to go to Dallas to watch the Army Air Force game. That was a blast. And it's like I said, I've been able to see the world through West Point. Not only just from getting away from North Carolina, just being in that general area. I mean, this semester I've been to Boston, Philadelphia, went all through Connecticut, Hartford, Glastonbury. Been out west, got to see Colorado, Texas. I'm going to California to see my buddies here in about 3 weeks over Christmas break. I mean, it's definitely more than a lot of people from Brunswick County, which I can speak to. Not many people get to get out and see the world, but possibly in Hanover County as well, people do.
No questions? Good, yes. Amazing. So tell them what happens, it's, I think, kind of funny and interesting. What happens to the bottom graduate of each class? What are they called?
It's called the GOAT. And so the person who graduates last in each class, they collect donations for them. And so every person in the class will give them at least $1. And on graduation, when they walk through, everyone knows who it is. And the dean, which is a brigadier general, which is a pretty important guy, will stand up and start losing his mind, celebrating, throws this guy a bag, and it'll have about $10,000 in cash.
So you're doing a good thing, Bobby?
Yeah, and so it's funny, people try to compete for it, but the dangerous thing about
Without getting
competing
kicked out.
Yeah.
You can ride that line. Whoa.
But it's funny, my class currently is 1,005. We started at 1219, so there's pretty good attrition there. But
How did you start?
1219.
Well,
I've got a buddy who's 1,003, so he's working on it.
that's fun.
That is
How do you feel you're changed since you were these students' age?